Module 2, Fractions and Decimals. This is Section 2.6, Order of Operations and Mixed Numbers. Just as a quick reminder, to multiply and divide fractions, if you're multiplying, you multiply all the numerators and then the denominators. If you're dividing, you're going to keep the first fraction the same, change division to multiplication, and then take the reciprocal of the second fraction. When you're adding or subtracting, you need to have a common denominator. Normally we try to find the least common multiple, but it could really be any number that both sets or more than one fraction's denominators can both be turned into. Now let's talk about order of operations. We've agreed upon a set of rules so that when we're simplifying expressions, we all get the same answers. First, we perform all the operations that are inside parentheses or in brackets. Then we'll evaluate exponents, multiply or divide from left to right, and then finally add or subtract from left to right. An easy way to remember this is PEMDAS. Let's look at an example. If I'm following PEMDAS, I need to do all the parentheses first and then all the exponents. Well, I don't have either of those in 1/2 plus 1/6 times a 1/3. So I can cross out my P and my E. Now I'm going to do multiplication and division from left to right. I need to multiply 1/6 times 1/3. 1/6 times 1/3 is 1/18. Now I need to say 1/2 plus that for addition and subtraction from left to right. My least common denominator is going to be an 18. To turn a 2 into an 18, I need to multiply by a 9. So I'll do that on my top and my bottom. 9/18 plus 1/18 is 10/18. I can reduce that by dividing by 2, both in the numerator and denominator, for a 5/9. For letter B, I do have parentheses, so I'm going to follow PEMDAS and take care of what's in my parentheses first. 7/8 and 7/16 have a least common multiple of a 16. I'll just write 3/2 over, divided by, and then in order to turn an 8 into a 16, I'll have to multiply by a 2. So I'll multiply 7 by 2 also. I can leave the 7 over 16 as is, since now they have a common denominator. I'll add what's in my parentheses because parentheses comes first. That's going to be 21 over 16. I don't have any exponents, but I do have division. When you're dividing fractions, you keep the first fraction the same, change it to multiplication, and take the reciprocal of the second fraction. When I multiply straight across, I get 48 over 42. I can divide both of by 6. 48 divided by 6 is an 8. 42 divided by 6 is a 7. Letter E, I have exponents. Sometimes we have exponents that look like it's a parentheses situation as well. It's really just that these parentheses are to help keep this fraction underneath this exponent. I'm going to need to take care of the exponents first. I don't have any parentheses. So I'm going to say, well, this squared means to multiply it by itself. So I really have 2/3 times another 2/3. And then I have minus 1/3 out here. 2/3 times 2/3 is 4/9. I don't have any more multiplication or division, so now I'm going to do addition and subtraction from left to right. The common denominator for 2 and 9 is 18. In order to multiply, to get a 2 to be an 18, I need to multiply by a 9, so I'll multiply by a 9 in my numerator. To turn a 9 into an 18, I need to multiply by a 2. So I'll multiply by 2 in my numerator. This is going to turn into 17 over 18. I then need to subtract a 1/3. I can still turn the 3 into an 18 by multiplying by a 6. So I'll multiply by a 6 up top as well. I come all the way down to 11 over 18. Pause the video and see if you can find C and F. Okay, I'm going to clear some space so that we can do C and F. I have two sets of parentheses in C, so I'm going to need to take care of my first set of parentheses and then my second set of parentheses. I have 2 7ths plus a 3/14, so I'm going to have a common denominator of a 14. In order to get my 7 to be a 14, I need to multiply by a 2, so I'll do that up at the top as well. 2 times 2 is 4. This is already a 14, so I'll leave it as that. In my other set of parentheses, I still have a common denominator of 14. Multiplied by 2 up top here, that's a 4. And I have minus 3/14. 7 plus 3 is, well, 4 plus 3 is 7, so that's 7/14. 4 minus 3 is 1, so that's 1/14. I don't have any more parentheses or exponents, so now I can multiply my two fractions. If there's no symbol in between, that means multiply. 7 times 1 times 7, and 14 times 14 is 196, so it's 7 over 196. For letter F, I have parentheses, but no exponents this time. 2/3 times, well, 2 and 4 are going to have a common denominator of a 4, so I'll leave that alone. For my second fraction, in order to turn the denominator of 4, I'll have to multiply by a 2, so I'll have 2/4, and I'll leave the 6 out here. Add my parentheses, and I have a 3/4. And then times 6. Anytime you have fractions times whole numbers always have an invisible 1 underneath it. So I can multiply my first two and get 6 over 12, and then multiply that by 6 over 1 for a 36 over 12. You can also have PEMDAS when you are doing evaluating of fractions with expressions. So if I have 2x squared plus 3y, if I let x be a 1/3 and y be a negative 4/5, I'll take the x out and put the 1/3 in. I'll take the y out and put the negative 4/5 in. So instead of 2x squared, it's going to be 2 times 1/3 squared. Instead of 3 times a y, it'll be 3 times a negative 4. 1/3 times 1/3 is a 1/9. 3 times a negative 4 over 5, well, my 3 looks like it has a little positive invisible 1 underneath. That would be negative 12 over 5. Times a 2 with the 1/9 would give me 2/9. I'll need a common denominator of 45. 9 times 5 is 45, so I'll need to multiply by the 2 by 5. 5 times the 9 and my other fraction, so 12 times 9. And then I could add 10 plus a negative 108 for a negative 98. Now negative 98 over 45 and the 36 over 12 are improper fractions. An improper fraction is when your numerator is bigger than your denominator. If I have an improper fraction, I can change that to a mixed number. And a mixed number is when you have a whole portion and a fraction portion. If I want to take my mixed number and change it back to an improper fraction, I'm going to take my denominator and multiply by the whole number piece, so that would be 45. And then you're going to add in the top piece for 46. Now leave that over the original denominator for 46 over 9. For letter B, I would say 11 times a 1 and then add 9. That's going to give me my new numerator. 11 times 1 is 11, plus 9 is 20. 20 is my new numerator. Keep the same denominator. Taking a mixed number to an improper fraction isn't so bad. Going the other way is not quite as fun. You'll have to actually do the long division. If you have 14 over 5 and you want to change that to a mixed number, you're going to have to do the division, long division, to find out what it is in a mixed number form. The denominator is on the outside and the numerator goes underneath. To turn 30 over 7 to a mixed number, I'm going to have to say 7 goes into 30 how many times? Well, it doesn't go into 3, so I'm going to need to look at the whole number of a 30. 7 goes into 34 times, and 7 times 4 is 28. When you subtract, you have 2 left over, and that's the remainder. That's going to be your numerator. This is going to be the whole number. So 30 over 7 would be 4 whole pieces with 2 left over out of the 7. 84 over 6 would be 6 divided into 84. Well, 6 goes into 8 once. 1 times 6 is 6. When I subtract, I have 2 left over. And I still have this 4 I have to deal with, and so 4 comes down. 6 goes into 4 times. 6 times 4 is 24, and I have no remainder. So I have 14 whole groups with nothing left over out of the 6. So I would just say 84 divided by 6 is a 14. Let's do the letter C's together, and then you will try the A and B's. For my top C, I want to change my mixed number to an improper fraction. To do that, I would multiply my denominator times the whole number, and then add the numerator. 9 times 13 is 117, plus 2 more is 119. That's my new numerator. This would be 119 over 9. Going the other way, I would have to say 12 goes into 156 how many times? Well, it doesn't go into 1, so I'm going to have to look at the 15. 12 goes into 15 once. 12 times 1 is 12. When I subtract, I have 3 left over. Bring down the 6. 12 goes into 36 3 times. And again, I don't have anything left over because 12 times 3 is 36. So this is 13 whole pieces with no remaining pieces of the 12. So just 13. Pause the video and see if you can do A and B for the first section and second section, and then check your answers. Okay, let's do all of the number 1s, and then we'll do all of number 2s. So for 3 1/2, my new numerator would be 3 times 2, right? Denominator times the whole number, plus 1, which is my numerator. So that would be 6 plus 1, which is 7. So I have 7 halves. For B, it would be 9 times 2, which is 18, plus another 8 for my numerator, which would be 26, over the same denominator of 9. For my second grouping, A would be, how many times does 3 go into 16? Well, 3 doesn't go into 1, so how many whole groups of 3 can I get out of 16? And that would be 5. Since 3 times 5 is 15. When I subtract, I have 1 left over. 5 is the whole number piece. This piece down here is your remainder, and the number on the outside is the denominator. The denominators don't change. We're going to keep that same denominator. For letter B, it's 5 into 38. Well, 5 doesn't go into 3, so I'll have to look at 38. 7 times 5 will give me 35, with 3 left over. 3 is my remainder. That's my new numerator. I'll keep the same denominator, and the 7 is the whole number. And that's how you change from an improper fraction to a mixed number to an improper fraction, and follow your PEMDAS rules.